over the stone. Then I wandered down to the beach and sprawled out on the sand. Most of the big shore places were closed now, and there were hardly any lights except the shadowy, moving glow of a ferry boat across the sound. And as the moon rose higher, the inessential houses began to melt away until gradually I became aware of the old island here that flowered once for Dutch sailors' eyes, a fresh green breast of the New World. Its vanished trees, the trees that had made way for Gatsby's house, had once pandered in whispers to the last and greatest of all human dreams. For a transitory, enchanted moment, man must have held his breath in the presence of this continent, compelled into an aesthetic contemplation he neither understood nor desired, face to face for the last time in history with something commensurate to his capacity for wonder. And as I sat there brooding on the old unknown world, I thought of Gatsby's wonder when he first picked out the green light at the end of Daisy's Dock. He had come a long way to this blue lawn, and his dream must have seemed so close that he could hardly fail to grasp it. He did not know that it was already behind him, somewhere back in that vast obscurity beyond the city where the dark fields of the Republic rolled on under the night. Gatsby believed in the green light, the orgiastic future that year by year recedes before us. It eluded us then, but that's no matter. Tomorrow we will run faster, stretch out our arms farther, and one fine morning. So we beat on, boats against the current, borne back ceaselessly into the past. Now, the way the novel ends, now to finish our annotative work at 2A, themes, messages, the way the novel ends, what are we actually saying in this novel? Nothing lasts, yes? Nothing lasts. Everything is ethereal. Many have read this as the death of the American dream. That is to say, there are things we long for, but the moment that we reach for them, they go away. Now, obviously, this is a very pessimistic reading of the novel, but certainly it's hard not to walk away from what Fitzgerald saw as the ending of the American dream, the challenge to believe in something. Nick wants to believe in something that Gatsby represents, but he can't do it. Speaking of representation, let's go to 2B. Well, obviously the power of the language is the reason you read the novel. You watch a film so that you can know what happens. You will read this novel so that you can experience, as I'm hopeful that I was able to share with you in the few passages I read to you, just the genius of Fitzgerald's prose. The use of the language then will lead us to the symbolism of the novel. And many have read this novel as being symbolic of any number of things, the passing of any number of things. Obviously the green light is the light of hope, no question. The eyes that are always watching. Of course, the cars and the chaos that's associated with cars and with technology. The symbolism is obvious there. And then Gatsby himself, again, the novel's title is The Great Gatsby. That is to say, Gatsby becomes the symbol of what? Well, I'll leave it to you guys to think a lot about that one, but think about the power of what Gatsby wanted most. He wanted the girl, to get the girl, he needed the wealth, so he pretends to have all this amazing life of wealth and luxury, but all of it means nothing because he doesn't have the thing that he really wants. Many have read this novel as economics, and about economics and the loss of the American dream economically. But lots of readers will read this novel actually from a different perspective. They see that what is actually lost in the end is love. That what Gatsby wants, that he will never be able to actually have, is love. And what Daisy wants is love, but she can't give it and she can't receive it, not even really to her own child. It is tragic. And all the characters of the novel both struggle. All of them struggle with this thing of they can't find true meaning and true love in their life. Now at 3A, and how we're going to relate this to other things we've read. We have read Fitzgerald's Winter Dreams, so you can go and look back again at that one, and you can begin to see a relationship between the two. In both of these, obviously, the guy wants the girl, the guy can't get the girl, the guy recognizes that his whole life has been about somehow an inability to get the thing that he really longs for, that he really wants. I think as well of Conrad's Heart of Darkness. Fitzgerald was very influenced by Conrad in Heart of Darkness. Notice Marlowe, that storyteller par excellence in that classic novel. I'd like to point out as well that Shakespeare's Hamlet, I think in large measure stands behind a whole lot of what Fitzgerald does in all his prose. Certainly in this text. You'll maybe remember that when Ophelia loses her mind and goes insane before she goes out to commit suicide by drowning herself, that she's handing out flowers, and to Elizabethan these flowers will represent different things. And when she gets to Gertrude, she gives Gertrude what? The daisy, the flower for the Elizabethans, the flower of infidelity. And in that moment, I think we can understand that Fitzgerald has chosen Daisy as the name for the love interest that Gatsby will never get, because she herself can't be true, either to herself or to what she longs for. She's stuck, as most of the characters in this novel are. Finally, a 3B. How are we going to own a novel like this, as we say? Well, I'll ask a few questions of you guys to let you think about this novel. First of all, do you fault Gatsby? Do you point the finger at Gatsby and say he got what he deserved? Or are you a little bit more willing to see Gatsby as being himself caught? He, raised poor, comes back from the war, and he's met Daisy before he left for the war. He comes back. Oh no, she married, she has a child, lives this affluent life. I will find a way, even if it's going to be criminal bootlegging and the like, to get money, and I will find a way to make myself representational to her, worthy of her, and then she will come to me, and ultimately, of course, she won't. Do you fault Gatsby, or do you see him as heroic? Do you see him as tragic? What about Nick? We again call this a Bildungsroman, a coming-of-age story. Nick learns a lot, and then he goes back west, where maybe the values are a little bit more deeper rooted. Certainly Fitzgerald has a certain level of ambiguity himself, clearly, about what he thinks of as being that corrupt East and all of that. What do you think about Nick? Did he learn anything through the experience? And if so, what did he learn? And how do you read these final lines of this brilliantly constructed novel as he's sitting there on the beach? Gatsby believed in the green light, the orgiastic future that year by year recedes before us. It eluded us then, but that's no matter. Notice the dash. Tomorrow we'll run faster, stretch out our arms farther, then notice the ellipsis, and one fine morning, and then the dash. It's as if he can't finish his thought. So, notice, we beat on. Boats against the current, borne back ceaselessly into the past. Think about the tones of Homer's Odyssey in a set of lines like that. The longing to try and get to an answer that one will accept as being meaningful. Finally, for you, do you find this a useful novel? There are many who read this novel that are made very uncomfortable by the novel itself, and they want to ask, why is this novel considered such a great novel? Now, I will say, you got to read the novel to begin to answer a question like that because of the craftsmanship of Fitzgerald. But what are your thoughts? Can you find anything useful from a story like this in your own life? Thank you.